Hello, friends. Continuing with our discussions on job interviews, we talk about the skills, the preparation that is required, and the behaviors that you need to adapt to ace the job interview. Today, I continue on this topic with some finer points. And actually speaking, I'm even more enthusiastic about doing this episode because the kind of comments I received over the weekend, I can clearly see that people are enjoying it. People are learning from it because the kind of focused questions I have got are really, really something that touched my heart. In the sense that I can see clearly that people are listening and thinking about it. So I think a lot of those questions are being answered today. Those questions that could not be answered today have already been responded to because I could not make them a part of my presentation. I have already responded to by either WhatsApp or email, depending on how that question has come to me. And some of them, as I said, will be addressed today. So to begin with today's episode, let us look at some general tips that you need to remember to ace that interview. And the first and foremost is dress appropriately. As they say, the first impression is the last impression. So you need to dress up appropriately. It's not always necessary to go suited, but depending on the job profile and depending on the level for which you are interviewing, you need to dress appropriately. And I don't think it is inappropriate to dress up in just a shirt and a trouser if the job so demands it, if it's going to be. But yes, definitely, I don't think you can go even for the job of a lifeguard when you are interviewing in a short and no t-shirt. Although you might be like that most of the time when you are at work. Practice good body language. Very often I have seen that interviewees, their body language tells the interviewer that they are scared, that they are not comfortable. In fact, I have seen an interviewer tell me while we are interviewing somebody saying that, boss, that guy is lying to us. So your body language is very important. Always be punctual and reach your interview destination on time. Because being punctual is a sign of respect for that person who's going to interview. And it also demonstrates that you are reliable and that you do things on time. Before going for the interview, in fact, much before going for any interview, prepare some of the GAQs and prepare the answers for them. Think of the GAQs that possibly come up in most interviews and prepare the answers for them. We looked at some of the GAQs last time. A lot of them are common and always come up. Prepare the questions that you would want to ask. It may not be worded exactly because it will depend on the company, what the research about the company has told you. But you know the general theme that you want to ask. So prepare your questions in advance so that at the end of the interview, as we discussed, if you are given the opportunity to ask questions, you are ready. Be likable. Lots of times we tend to discount the importance of likability, but don't do that. It's very important to be likable. Go well prepared with all the research that you can do about the company. What is the mission of the company? What is the culture of the company? Research and check if that company has a culture of the kind that would suit you and you would like to work in. Research about the job itself. Don't go just by the job description, as we said last time. Understand what the job is about. Understand the role that you would be playing. Identify with good, deep thought what are the responsibilities that go with that job, what are the skills that you would require for the job, and whether you have it in you or not. You don't want to get into a job. Maybe if you're very, very desperate and it's a matter of eat or not eat, you take up any job that comes your way. But by and large, if you're planning a career and if you're making a move, applying for a job or reconsidering the role of you in your current organization, then you need to make sure that you understand what the responsibilities are, what the skills that are required are, and do you have it in you or not. When applying for a job, think and research all the new age tools that are available for that kind of a job and whether that company is already using them. If not, you have something to tell them in the interview that is going to put you one above the rest, in the sense that you've done your homework and come, you know how you can do the job very well and even better than they're probably doing it now. While speaking to the interviewer, establish a basic trust. Very difficult to do in a short span of an interview, but there are things that you can talk of. The way you talk will establish the trust with them. Prepare a pitch to give the interviewer about your skills, about your aptitude, about your achievements. Okay? How you are going to be able to contribute to the growth of the company if you get into that job that you're interviewing for. And not only for an interview, but in general, prepare what you would call a brag document. You always find people telling you that don't brag. It's not a good habit. But prepare the brag documents. There are times when it's a good habit to use them. And an interview, or when you are looking for a promotion within your company, it's a great time. Or when you are looking at getting your salary revised. That time, that brag document is very, very important. And what should the brag document be all about? First of all, remember that you have to store or record your data in a format which you will understand very easily when you have to tell people about the factors that you're going to brag about. Update it regularly. What should it contain? It should contain the tasks you have done. It should contain the tasks that you have done successfully. It should list your achievements. It should list your achievements quantifiably wherever possible. So make sure that all these things are noted. Project. What did you do? What was your profile? Did you do over and above your profile? Did you find some new or innovative way by which you address some of the challenges that you faced? What were the challenges that you faced and you solved? And all of this must go into your brag document. But you have to also remember that constantly match your goals with your performance, with your achievements, to see that you are on track for the long-term goals that you have set for yourself. Okay. Be interested in the job. If you're not interested, why are you there for the interview? So show interest. Show them that that job, that profile, that task that you're going to perform day in and day out is of interest to you. And whenever you're talking and conveying your brag account, do not overpromise. But there's a fine line to draw. Do not also underplay your skills and your capabilities. So there's a fine line you have to balance between overpromising. Promise them what you are capable of. Maybe promise them a little less, iota less, so that you are performing better than what you promised. But definitely don't underplay yourself. Somebody else will take the job away if he plays his cards right. Do not pretend to be a perfect person. Every interviewer knows that there is no perfect person. And if you pretend to be that, you are on a trip which is non-realistic. So don't pretend to be that. I think I mentioned this last time, but you will Generally, a typical question that is asked right at the beginning of the interview is, tell us something about yourself. And don't go on and on and on about it. Shut up at some stage after giving them. And when you're talking about something about yourself, don't tell them that you have a dog and you have this and you have that and that you're okay. They're not interested in that. When they say, tell me about yourself, they want to know about your achievements. You have to make an impactful talk about yourself when you tell them about yourself. You have to tell them what are your achievements. You have to tell them what are your skills. You have to tell them which skills you have developed recently, which are going to help you in your career. There are so many things you can tell them about yourself. Don't go on about your hobbies or your dog or your just your kids and your family. That's not what the interview is. The interviewer is going to use this opportunity to tell you a little more about the job, which may be a more realistic description of what the job is going to be. Okay, listen very, very attentively and carefully. Ask any questions for things that you don't understand. But this is very important to understand as well as listen properly, because this is what is going to be the actual profile that you will be following. Generally, interviewers will ask you some questions or give you some kind of a problem to solve. You don't require a calculator or a slide rule or anything like that. It's going to be more of an intuitive. They want to see how you think, how you process. Okay, so just to be sure that you understood the question properly, it's always a good idea to repeat the question slowly, breaking it up as you have understood it. That eradicates that doubt, because that interview will stop you if you have misunderstood something. And while preparing the solution, while telling them about the solution, if you have made certain assumptions, tell them about the assumptions straight away, and not when they question why you did this and why you did that. And do not overcomplicate your responses. The best way is to start with the basic. Supposing they've asked you some challenging question to which you need to offer a potential solution, maybe start with the basic and then go building on it as you get time to think. Because you're not going to take 5 minutes off to think and then start talking. Okay, so start with the basic, and whatever you are thinking, whatever is going on in your mind, it is always a good habit to think aloud, because that gives the interviewer a chance to see how you are thinking, how you are addressing a problem, and that it goes a long way into determining whether you are capable for the job or not. So it tells them about your ability. Now, there are a lot of times when you have gone prepared for an interview saying you're going to tell them this, you're going to tell them that, you're going to tell them about this achievement, but the interviewer doesn't ask any of those questions. Happens. So when such a situation arises, when you see that it's going in a particular direction after maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes, and they've still not come to the things that you think are important for getting that job, take some other question and start drafting your answer in such a way that you can include those things, but don't make it sound totally abstract, totally devoid of touching the subject. So you need to bring it about in a very subtle manner where it seems it's going on the flow. It has to be apparent that it has to be looking apparent that it is going with the flow. But at the same time, you need to remember that there will be questions shot at you, which again you did not expect, but for which you have not prepared answers. So you need to make it a habit to start thinking on the spot and responding. Okay. And therefore, you need to do a lot of research about the job, about your profile, what kind of tools are used in the job, depending on your thing, and get ample knowledge so that you can use that knowledge and respond instantly. Okay. I've seen people do it, and the minute they enter, oh, thank you, sir, for calling me for the interview. I just need this job. I want this job, not need. In any case, whether it's a want or a need, I don't think that's the right way to start. You have to demand the job based on your merits and not plead for it. While talking, use some kind of a statement, some kind of a hook by which people will remember you. I remember a hook I use, and I've used it here on the ThoughtShots platform, I think more than once, which I'm going to use again today, and which people remember me by. They come and look at my face and say, you are the guy who said this. They may not remember my name, but they do remember that. And my hook is, it is not your aptitude, but your attitude that will determine your altitude. Make sure you have the right attitude. Generally, at the end of the interviewer always asks the candidate, asks the interviewee, are there any questions you have? Is there anything you want to know about the company, about the job or anything? This is a great opportunity and don't waste it under any circumstances. Use it to further prove yourself that you have studied, that you know the job, that you have taken the trouble to research about it, to better understand it, and ask questions that need clarification based on the research that you have done. Ask them about the company culture. Ask them what are their expectations from you on the job. But don't ask too many questions. Restrict it to 3, 4. I think 5 and beyond is not the thing. Well, again, it becomes the same thing like, tell me about yourself, and you go on and on and on and on. That's not the thing. Personalize the questions. Look directly at the interviewer and ask them. So it's very important. And build them from the conversations that you have already had. Don't go and shoot something out of the bolt unless it is very critical and they have not addressed it, which I doubt would happen. So some of the questions that you can ask are, okay, what do you expect out of me if I take up this job within the first, say, 6, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months, whatever it is? And how would they define that I am successful at the job? What is the definition of success for that particular job? And how will they judge whether you have delivered or not? What are the company plans for growth? You want to get into a company that is going to grow and not stagnate or and what is going to be your career? How are you going to get growth once you take up this job? It's very important to don't keep referring to your resume all the time. Oh, as I wrote in my resume, as I know, that means you're telling that person that he has not read the resume. Don't do that. Okay. And don't get into that confession mode or something. If they point out something that don't go on a confession. Don't keep trying to justify yourself. If there was a mistake, accept it and move ahead. Don't be overly formal. Make sure you go with the flow of the conversation. That is very, very. And in the flow, whenever you get the chance, whenever you can bring it in without sounding or without saying, so to say, change the topic, let them know what it will be like to work with you, that you can and are willing to learn, and that you take initiative and deliver. And all of these things, when you talk about, don't say you should, one should. No, I should, I did, I would. That's the way talk in the first person. A lot of people have asked me whether it's okay to disagree with an interview. Yes, it is. But you have to be very, very careful about it. You have to formulate your questions and your responses to the disagreement very calmly in a controlled manner and well articulated. And before this thing, tell the interviewer, sir or ma'am, I have a different perspective. Is it okay if I share my perspective? Okay, but most important, this is where your personal judgment will come into this thing, play it by the ear. If you feel that the demeanor of the interviewer is not one that is going to accept your disagreement, don't go and disagree. Another thing that you need to do is they'll very often ask you questions, especially one that they always ask you, is to practice the art of deflection. Okay, they will ask you things like, do you have other job offers? Do you have Do you mind working overtime? There are answers you don't want to give. Deflect them. Find out what you can do. Political views. I mean, you don't want to discuss your political views at a job interview. You have to learn how to deflect them. A good way to deflect it would be to say that, sir, the political situation is always changing, so I do not have political issues, political opinions that are constant. Even in the case of Modi, they have changed over the past 5 years or 10 years or 2 years. So, there are challenges with this. Supposing somebody asks you, do you have any job offer? If you say no, they'll give you the worst offer that they can give, the most basic lower offer. If you say yes, then they're going to ask you details about it, which you would naturally not want to share. If you would say, I would rather not answer, there's that relationship and trust factor that gets a bump, so to say. Lie, never do that. So you have to deflect it only. And one of the simplest way to deflect is, sir, you're asking me if I have other job offers. Are you going to make the offer to me? Let them respond and say yes or no. But you don't answer. Okay. When deflecting, stay on the topic. Don't jump topics. Okay. Don't try to change the subject. That's not a good sign. But counter them with a deflecting question or a deflecting statement and maintain the flow of responses. Anticipate their reaction to your deflections and prepare responses to that. After the interview, follow up with a thank you note, express your appreciation, reiterate your interest, mention the hook statement or word that you have used so that they can place you, and use this thank you note as an opportunity to communicate something important that you missed out during the interview. Okay. So having said this, I'll stop here today. It's been quite some time. We are going to look at a little more about the interview or the post-interview sessions. And one very important question that people have been asking me, which I will address in my next episode. Thank you. Have a good day. Good evening.